Cool. This first little drill we're going to have a look at is some switching. What I'd normally do in the session is just get people to get on and have a little paddle around in C1s and see what they, see how they naturally paddle forward, see what they come up with to help them be able to go in a straight line. Then one of the first things I'd actually talk about is switching. So switching the paddle from one side to the other side. Obviously the C1 you paddle on the left, when it goes right, you switch to the right, when it goes left, eventually it goes in a straight line. Obviously you don't want to do a whole session of forwards paddling, so one of the things I do is give them kind of 10 minutes, once we've kind of discussed the basics of switching, to kind of experiment and find their own ways of switching. And I give them two tasks: what the most creative way of switching, and then what they think is the best, most efficient way of switching. And then we come back and review that after kind of 10 minutes or so. Cool. I guess then looking at those drills, you could see there was quite a bit of creativity in the first set of drills, and then looking at a good way to switch, or the way the majority of kind of senior and high level guys switch. And we'd often then talk about why that was the best way of switching. And I think, to be honest, the key bit is when you do that good switch, that you've always got control of the paddle. The first one that we did, where they kind of go over the top, works, but that's one they often do, but you don't have a lot of control, and it takes quite a lot of time to switch then quickly. So that's what we talk about, always having control of the paddle and having almost two hands on the paddle for as long as possible to have that control. And then we talk a little bit about fumbling of switches or getting switches wrong, which obviously they don't quite understand, what's the problem if our switch is a little bit slower or whatever. But we'll do this next drill, and that will show us the power of, the problems about fumbling a switch. Cool. I guess one of the hardest bits about C1, obviously with that tracking thing, is getting the boat accelerated from a standstill. Quite often what I'll do is go behind the paddler and just actually give them a little push from the tail to push them forwards, just to give them a little bit of speed, so that then with that speed comes basically better tracking. Obviously, with it being hard to go from a standstill, that little push just gives them a little bit of help. So that's a good little tip to use. that was just a really simple drill, 360 degrees one way, switch 360 degrees back, and often I'd turn that into a little game, so whoever did the 360 switch 360 back and then put their hand up in the air basically wins the game, to make it a little bit more competitive as well, and show that obviously we need to be quick on those switches, and if we fumble that switch, obviously we do more degrees of rotation than we want, or we lose our paddle, or we come out of control. So the faster we can switch and the more accurately we can switch, the quicker we can get back in that second 360 degrees, and then yeah, win the game. So another little game we can play, which I think is quite good to put some emphasis on that, to practice that switching and to put it under a little bit of pressure. They've basically got to switch sides from the left to the right, 10 times, 15 times, you can make that number up, but what it does is basically a race between them all to keep switching sides. So I'll go out and show you that now. So another game another game or a drill like that we can do is the same, but instead of switching, we basically just reach over the boat and do crossbows. So I'll go and do that right now. Again, forward paddling in C1 is sometimes a little bit harder, because obviously we only have one blade on one side. So thinking about a few solutions to potentially help tracking. One thing we have done on this boat, just here we've got like a little fin box, and all it's been done is literally just been gaffer taped on, and then we have a selection of fins. First of all, we'll use this one, little SUP fin, like 10 quid from Amazon. Just slot it in, literally ready to go. This one we actually found was far too big. People were paddling forwards but just couldn't turn at all, to the fact that sometimes they were paddling, they were getting so much kickback off the fin, they were going the opposite, they were going the same side as they were paddling with that much kind of kickback off the fin. So all we did was cut it down, and then this one was pretty much perfect. It provided a load of good tracking, but they could still turn with it. Obviously, as we got better and better, we take the fins off and just learn to track. Another way of doing it that's worked a lot on open canoes before is just having a carabiner with some rope, or here's some webbing behind, through the carabiner, and again that just trails out behind the boat, just gives a little bit of support to help the tail stay in line with tracking. But there's just a couple of little solutions to have a go with. Again, that's just gaffer tapes on, so you can take it off at any point, and then obviously you could cut these down or get different size fins to help as they generally go. I think it just makes the first couple of sessions just a little bit more enjoyable, rather than just spinning round the whole time. And you could do 5 minutes with, reach under the boat, slide it on. They can do another 5 minutes with a slightly bigger fin, and just again have a little play about and see what works for them. Cool. When we're first starting, especially in C1s, I think outfitting can be pretty basic. Just a normal seat, normal front block, no straps, and I don't even worry about decks. So again, there's no worries of entrapment, there's no worries about getting stuck in the boat. They can fall out pretty easily, and actually it just makes it a little bit more fun. Actually, if it is a little bit more basic, they can do more fun stuff like standing up in their boats. Can they stand up and do the Macarena? Can they do little drills and stuff? Can they do 20 meters between two gates stood up in their C1s? C2s are especially good for that. I've seen little kids do headstands in C2s. But yeah, just pretty basic outfitting. Doesn't need to be anything massive. might be a little bit loose, and connectivity is sometimes a bit of an issue, but I think the entrapment and just being able to have a bit more fun in the boat is really good.